Can you start off with your name and title?
Adam Flint, ADAMFLINT, Southern Tier Solar Works Program Manager at the Binghamton Regional Sustainability Coalition.
All right, so this rule change, what was the rule before this change had been initiated, and what would be the setbacks if that change does go through?
Currently, we operate on what's called net metering. So for residential arrays, you're getting reimbursed by the utility, in this area, NYSEG, at exactly the same rate you're paying. Simple, easy to understand, easy to plan. What's happening now is they're proposing something called the value of distributed energy resources. For our purposes, call it value of solar. And they're proposing a formula that is complicated, that makes it very difficult to know over the life of a project how much solar is going to be worth from year to year, and that will also almost certainly result in a lower value than net metering. What we are saying is that net metering should be the floor, not the ceiling, that there needs to be a higher value of solar, and the proposal needs to be simple so that we can get financing. And so regular folks who are interested in solar but maybe don't understand everything, which is most of us, can understand this. So that's what we're asking the Commission to do, to either reject the staff proposal outright or make the modifications that we have suggested.
Have you heard any rationale for the change? Is it trying to give more money to the energy supplier? I mean, where do the costs get offset to?
Sure. So there are some value of solar items that are good for the grid, I will say, also good for the public utilities. For example, if you put an array up in a place where the grid is very stressed, meaning there's a lot of demand and not enough supply, that might mean they don't have to put in another substation, which is saving all the ratepayers money. We're totally down with that. Also, it may be that they need more power at peak usage time, which for solar is in the late afternoon. That's when the most production from solar happens. It's also a peak time on the grid. That too, that makes sense to us. What they're not doing is valuing the economic, environmental, climate, social, and health benefits of solar, which are all significant, which are not the case for fossil fuel and nuclear. So we feel like those values should be incorporated to make solar worth more, particularly because the way this formula is being done, it's not going to impact rooftop solar right away, not for another 4 years. So basically, the people who are middle class, upper middle class, who've been able to get solar, they're not going to be affected. Low and moderate income people, renters, transient people, people who can't deploy, they're affected. That's just not fair.
All right, and then do you feel like this is a step backwards in terms of the state's message and process to try to move more renewables and clean energy for New York State?
Well, it's certainly a step back in terms of the process. I mean, the governor's message was pretty clear. He wants to see 50% renewable electricity on the grid in 14 years. He wants to see every New Yorker, regardless of zip code or income, to be able to get in on shared solar. The staff has produced a proposal that is a setback to that message and to those goals.
And I guess how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like we may need some change in leadership at the Commission or a change of heart. Because here we are 18 months after the regulations were first put out, 2 arrays in the ground. One of them was over there a minute ago, a picture of it. That's not good. That's not good scaling, not good performance. We could do better.
So I feel like there was a pretty optimistic view for this project to go through with a shared solar farm right here. Is that kind of what the deal was? And now, how is this going to be impacted now that the Commission's putting some of these changes through?
Well, we hope they won't. They haven't ruled on this yet. It's already challenging because incentives are insufficient for this part of the state. We've had some good luck here. This is a very good piece of property with good utility infrastructure. We've been getting some philanthropic support. What we don't need is at the 11th hour for the Commission to come in and basically make our commodity worthless.
So does a site like this really operate off of investors? And so is that why the value is so important? So the investors, the value's down, they'll invest less? Is that?
Or they might not invest, yeah. So the way solar is financed, it uses tax credits to get what's called tax equity finance. That's the 30% federal tax credit. That's really the big amount of value that investors can take. And that's what brings in the largest sum of money to actually do the building, which is where most of the money is spent, obviously, is at actually building the array. We can also use what's called debt financing from really anybody that's in that business. It could be a bank or credit union. Our partners at Co-op Power have this lined up. But at the end of the day, if the value of solar is lower we may not be able to give people sufficient discount, and we may not even be able to make the project work economically.
So one of the timelines. Anything else?
I would simply say that to folks who want shared solar, I have two messages. One is, check out our website at southerntiersolarworks.org. When you start seeing our events, come out and talk to us. And I would also say contact your assembly people, your senators, and your governor, and say that you want the roadblocks to equitable, accessible, clean energy taken down so all New Yorkers, regardless of income and zip code, can get their share.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks for coming out.
Anytime.